morning. I'm Wayne Morrow with the Matter of Action program, and this morning we have a special guest, Gary Benoit, publisher and editor of the New American magazine. And I would say, Gary, it's probably the only magazine that I know is available. It's really non-mark, non-fake news, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the current issues and maybe a new one coming up soon to entice you folks to read the magazine or prescribe to the magazine and subscribe. Anyway, so Gary, I saw this article. I just want to review a couple of these. Violence Incorporated, the leftist enterprise. Boy, we see a lot about the streets burning, and we go to, looks like Selma Duke did a really good article on really what's going on in Violence, Inc. So maybe you could summarize for people listening who are not members or not subscribers to the magazine on really what this is all about, civil unrest and Violence, Inc.
First of all, Wayne, I appreciate being on your program. It's great to be here. And I think a good place to start in terms of summarizing the article is with the title, Violence, Inc.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, a lot of thought does go into the titles. And Inc., that means incorporated. And that was chosen on purpose because when you look at the left, violence is really a part of their modus operandi.
Right.
The left believes that the end justifies the means, and of course I'm talking about the radical left, and they will use any means necessary in order to effect change. And part of that is violence. And of course there are all kinds of examples. A big part of the problem with doing this article was to try to distill it and just pick a few examples because it's very systemic in terms of the violence on the part of the left.
Yeah, it was interesting going through BLM and really what's behind it. And of course, as you know, the left violence isn't something new. You know, it's all about the revolution, isn't it?
No, and absolutely, it is all about the revolution. And in fact, one of the interesting things, and this is not just happenstance, but if you look at some of the violence that has taken place. Some of the demonstrations, they have brought guillotines. And of course, those are mock guillotines, not real guillotines, at least not at this point in time. But what do people think about when they think of guillotines, Wayne? You know, obviously...
French Revolution.
Right. One would think of the French Revolution.
Why not?
And of course, that's when blood flowed in the streets of Paris and other parts in France. Countless people, countless innocent victims were killed and consumed by the revolution. So a good question is, well, why the guillotine? Why would these protesters bring guillotines to the riots? And obviously they are sending a message as to what they're planning. And if we don't expose this and turn things around, there's no doubt that the day will come where we would see the same kind of thing happening in this country that happened in the French Revolution back in the 1700s.
Yeah, so it's nothing new here. Same old story, just different faces, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I know the follow-on piece then is, what is life like without police, right?
Right, and of course that begs the question, why would anybody in his right mind not want to have law enforcement, not want to have police? And of course the obvious answer is the only people who would want that are the people who want to bring about anarchy.
Right.
And of course, what we need to keep in mind is why the left uses violence as a tactic, why they do work to bring about anarchy. And it's because they realize that in order to create their new world order, in order to bring about a socialist communist state, they have to tear apart. They have to topple not just the statues, but they have to topple the institutions of the old order. They have to topple the old system. And so by creating anarchy, what they hope to do is build, in the midst of that anarchy, build upon the smoldering ruins this socialist communist state that they want to put together.
Right.
So they're really not against law enforcement, but they're against the kind of law enforcement that we have today, which is based on local police departments, local policemen protecting and serving their communities.
Correct.
And they want to replace that with a police state. They talk about freedom, but really what they're working for is tyranny.
Right. Yeah, because you know, with anarchy as a vacuum, it gets filled in with oligarchies or tyranny, right?
Right, exactly.
And that's what happens. So they become the police state.
Yes.
So the changing of the guard, right? And then we have an article there about the Hate America 1619 project. I know that's always talked about recently, and Alex Newman does a good article here about really explaining what this is all about. Another de facto on history, rewriting it, And he did a really good job on hating America. Well, that's really good stuff here. I want to go on to the next one. Just came out. It's about the nonstop effort to take down Trump and America. And the opening article here is by Bill Jasper. And I thought this was kind of interesting. It talks about early on when Trump became president that Admiral Michael Rogers visited him into his office in New York City and warned him about the deep state taking him down. It's interesting, huh?
Yes, and that's something a lot of people do not know about that particular visit. Yeah. But what a lot of people do know about these days is the existence of a deep state. Mm-hmm. And one reason so many people know about it today is because it took the Trump administration, or actually took Trump running for president, running as a political outsider, to basically cause the deep state to drop the mask, to reveal its fangs. Mm-hmm. It's very much out in the open now. There is a conspiracy that the New American Magazine, which is a part of the John Birch Society, and of course the John Birch Society as well, has been exposing and opposing over many years. Mm-hmm. But in more recent years, that conspiracy has become very open. You see this power elite. You see these people, deep inside the U.S. government, who are unelected, and you see them trying to change the policies and even overthrow the duly elected government of the United States.
Yes, because the follow on that is the coup of the media, because we know the media has been all in, and they've basically silenced or deplatformed anything that gives us truth. And so the article here by Bill Jasper again is the coup of the media. He calls it a communist news network. I call it the comedy news network. But anyhow, it's a good article. It follows on really this plan. It's not by mistake. I talk to members and non-members alike. They think that politicians are stupid. I said, no, they're not. They're not stupid at all. They're very crafty. It's all done planned. It's all planned. It looks like they want to portray they're idiots, but they're not at all.
Well, of course, it depends on the politician. Some of them obviously are stupid, and I know sometimes people like to joke that, well, the Republican Party is a stupid party, and the Democrat Party is the evil party. Right. But the truth is, at the top, if you look at the leadership of both major parties, mm-hmm. They're basically working for the same thing.
Sure.
And in fact, there's a professor, late professor, he's died a number of years ago, but Professor Carroll Quigley, who wrote a book called Tragedy and Hope, wherein he explained exactly that. And he was somebody, by the way, who was given honorable mention by Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton accepted the nomination by the Democratic Party a number of years ago. But in this book, he explained that what you need to do in order to effect control, and he wasn't exposing it, he was actually approving of it, but what you need to do, he said, is to control both major parties, and one appeals to a conservative constituency, the other appeals to a liberal constituency, but at the top, the same basic policies stay in effect. So if the rascals are thrown out one political year, and the other party takes over, those same policies continue. And that's what we've seen over many years until recently, President Trump being the exception. And of course, that's why the deep state is working so hard to get rid of them.
Of course, they're called Republicans. Hey, listen, we're almost running out of time. You want to give folks a teaser with the next magazine upcoming, because we're all talking about the election fraud. I call it the coup. So maybe in the last few seconds we got, what's coming up after this one here? What's the next topic?
What's coming up is we're really going to be putting voting fraud under a microscope. The evidence is mounting that voting fraud is widespread, dare we say systemic, on the part of the people who are exercising control and trying to keep Trump from having a second term. You could even look at it as the latest installment in terms of the deep state's war against President Trump and against America.
Wow. Okay. Well, listen, that's a lot going on. Thank you so much. The New American Magazine. You can find us on thenewamerican.com. You can subscribe to the magazine for only $48 a year. If you're a member, it's included. Gary, thank you so much. Thanks for providing real news, not fake news.
Thank
Till
you,
next
Wayne.
time, keep on birching.